Hello YouTube, Luigi here. You know, I've been watching a lot of knife reviews by a lot of great guys over a long time, and every once in a while someone will say, oh, I happened to walk into Walmart or Kmart or some big box store or Lowe's or Home Depot, and I saw this great deal on a knife and I just had to pick it up. A couple of names come to mind. Chris from Prepared Mind 101s used to do that. I haven't seen him do that in a while, but Freddie Hart from Gear Obsession, one of my favorite knife channels, by the way. I really like this guy. He's got a very, very approachable, human, amenable way about him that I just really like. Freddie Hart from Gear Obsession does it a lot, and he's always finding great values, and he's showing you what he found, and he picked them up because the value was good, and brings them home and does these great reviews on them. Well, I've been looking at our local Walmart for a while, and they only had one knife I was even tempted by, and it was a black cryo, and it was $55, and I didn't buy it because by that time I was disillusioned with the size of my cryo, and I actually gave it away. It's a great knife, but I couldn't get all 4 fingers around it, which is important to me, so I didn't really like it. So I'm in the local Home Depot today, and I just thought, as a whim, I would see what I could find, and usually I find the usual assortment of carpenter's knives, drywall knives, utility knives, and they were all there, and I found this. It's a Coast FX411. Now, Coast is an American company that puts out knives at a great value. It's almost hard to imagine that it's an American company relative to the price. Here in Portland, Oregon. This is how it came, or Oregon. This is how it came, and I bought it, and I opened it right there in the store parking lot with my Schrade Imperial IMP 2012, the large sod buster. Okay, so now we have a knife that is pretty darn big. We'll get into the size later. It has a, I would call it a liner lock, or an inset liner lock, but they're calling it a frame lock, and I just don't see that at all. It's got scales. I suppose it is the frame, and it works good enough. It's quite stiff, but I know from experience that these things loosen up. The lockup is, boy, it's like 100%. I mean, it's really, the bar is out there to the end of the tang. I don't know what you can see here with this light. Yeah, it's got a black coating, which I don't know what it is, but my guess is that on the inexpensive knives, they often use a Teflon, which means it's not great. It's going to scuff. All it says is Coast on this side. You see the torque screw pivot. These are laminated real wood scales. You see a lanyard hole and a couple of torque screws holding the scale to the frame. Maybe it really is a frame lock. It's got pretty decent jimping on the spine of the blade that comes down into the sides of the frame. And it's a drop point. I'm going to have to read the steel because I'm unfamiliar with the steel. It says 7CR17 stainless. Ambidextrous opening, lanyard hole, frame lock for safety. So the jury's still out on whether it's a frame lock. Now, you'll notice that the steel liner extends beyond the scale. Where have we seen this before? We've seen it before in this CRKT endorser. And just like the endorser, one might think extending the steel beyond the scale might create a hot spot in the grip. But it doesn't. This is a very comfortable full 4-finger grip for me. It's got a lot of finger grooves in that long handle. It's a big knife. It's a big knife. And it was less than $10 is the point. YouTube has quite a few favorable, very favorable reviews of the Coast knives. They're made in America. I'm not saying they're a super excellent knife, but everyone says for the price, these are very, very good knives. Okay? You can see the ergos on the handle, which I just love. I just love. I like finger grooves. And it's very stiff right now. And I know from experience that rather than making a big deal about that, that eventually they all loosen up and eventually they all fly out like a rocket. I'll give it a little lube, but I am not going to loosen the pivot. One thing I've learned from experience is loosening the pivot just invites side-to-side blade play, and I can't stand that. So this is my first Coast knife. I have several Coast knives on my list, on my long-term purchase list. I just happened to serendipitously fall into this at the local Home Depot. It's big. I gotta tell you, it's big. How big is it? Well, it's got a full 4-inch blade and about a 4 3/4-inch handle. Or it's got a 10 centimeter plus blade and a 12 plus centimeter handle. That's it. Now, there's 2 other reviews on YouTube of this. You're welcome to see them. And if you're considering this, educate yourself. One was not very favorable for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. It does not have a pocket clip. Okay, it doesn't have a pocket clip. Remember, it's less than a $10 knife. It doesn't have a pocket clip. Number 2, he did some severe spine whacking on this blade and got the liner lock to fail. Well, I don't use a knife that way. And the truth is, I bet if you take some of the finer knives out there and beat them on their spines, you can get the liner locks to fail. So I'm just trying to be a thorough here and letting you know 2 of the negatives somebody else found. No pocket clip. You thump it hard enough, you'll get the liner lock to fail. It feels good is all I can tell you. The jimping is effective. It's not tearing up your hand, but it's working good. It's working good. Ambidextrous thumb stud. And they didn't just plaster a lot of graphics all over the blade. Here on this side you see it says FX411. And to the side it simply says Coast. So, happy to have an all-American knife. That's on the heavy-duty side. I gotta tell you, it's heavy and it's big, and I like the way it feels in my hands. All right, that's all I gotta say. My very first Coast knife, found at a Home Depot. God bless you. I love you all. Take good care, everybody, and please stay safe out there. Bye-bye.